Hello! I'm so happy that you've decided to join us at Ditch Witch Diaries. However, today it's not an us, it's just me. So I'm excited that you're here and we are going to talk about fruits. And I've got two really exciting fruits for you. So let's just get cooking, shall we? Let me share my screen. You're going to see what's going to happen here. Look at this. Chatty. So here we are. Pitch and be witchery. We are in fruits and we are talking about the beloved cherry. I love cherries so much. In fact, both of my fruits today are stone fruits. So that's like the first thing that's really exciting. So cherry is a stone fruit. We're going to talk all about that. But I have a special love for stone fruits. I will tell you this. And cherries have always been among my favorites. So I'm so excited to share the wonderful stories about cherry. So cherry is Prunus avium, that's wild cherry. There's also Prunus serotina, which is black cherry. And this is what the cherry looks like, the botanical drawings. And then this is, of course, what AI likes to give you, right? I love that's one of the best AI generated images ever, I think. Here's the cherry, and the parts used are the fruit and the bark and the roots. And the other names are black cherry, choke cherry, Guian, and Guian though is really a predecessor to the cherry. So it's also called hagberry, hackleberry, mazard cherry, pin cherry, or sweet cherry. And like I hinted at before, we're talking about Prunus. And Prunus is all the stone fruits. So that's the genus for stone fruit is Prunus. And we're going to see this again. So the plant information. So much. Here we are. And let's just take a look. So originally cherries they started out in Asia, and I love to know this. I love to know where the plant, the herb, the spice is from originally and how it got to us and how it traveled through places. It's really important to know, I feel. But this one is starting out in Anatolia in Asia Minor. And another interesting part of this plant is that there's a bunch of different parts of it that are used as dyes. And so we could use these as witchy dyes. So we know that I've made inks that are witchy inks that are like enscorled or whatever, or for magical purposes, whatever, but these can be used. So the bark makes a tan or a cream dye. The root, interesting, a red or a purple dye, and the berries also a purple or a pink dye. So also we're going to talk about a couple different alcohols that can be used with cherry, and one of them is this cherry brandy. And so this is something that you can make, and again, all of these things can be made for spells or just for your own enjoyment, but cherry brandy is really easy to make. You fill the jar with wild cherries, you add some sugar, and then you fill the rest with brandy, and you let it steep for a few moons. They say a few months, but I like it a few moons because I always do my measuring of time by moon cycles. Okay, and you let it steep for a few moons, and then you have cherry brandy. Also, there's a gum that oozes from the bark, and this gum can be chewed on like chewing gum. So more plant information. There's so much. So this plant is rich in vitamin C, A, beta carotene, antioxidants, minerals, iron, magnesium, potassium, all that good stuff. So just you're eating real food now, folks. You're getting into the realm of vitamins. This is part of it too, and part of the reason why I'm so excited about plants and vegetables and things is because when we are eating food that's not food. You may think that, but think about it. When we shop the center aisles, that food it's like food product. It's not food. When you're eating a cherry, you're eating food. So I'm excited for you. And guess what? It's rich in all these great things. Okay, but cherries didn't arrive to the Americas, so north of the continent, the American continent, until the 17th century with the Spanish. So that was late in the game. So cherries weren't a thing around in America. It's an interesting thing to think how late in the game things crossed over. So I like, but more crazy sometimes is the other direction. I'm always blown away by vanilla. I love it. I just love the idea that we didn't have it, or chocolate. It's so good. Oh my gosh, that's the best story. And I did there's a there we did a Ditch Witch Diaries video before on vanilla. I think it was on one of the chakras. So you can look back. I'll find it and try to put like a little thing here for you in during this. So also, like most of the stone fruits, cherries, the pit does contain some of this cyanide. It's hydrocyanic acid, and it's cyanide is in it, and you can smell. But okay, so it's the and also all these stone fruits kind of derive from like almond. Almond is a part of their ancestry, and it's in this stone fruit line. And so it smells like bitter almond. Often the leaves and things of these stone fruits, you can smell the almond smell in the leaves and some of the other parts. So, but it also is an interesting thing because and I don't know if anybody has ever used that old school, like it's Jergens lotion, and the smell is like this almond cherry smell, and it's really fakey smell, but I like it. I mean, you either like it or you don't. I'm really weird about smells, so I do like that smell. It's kind of a good smell. It's very strong, but it's good. And that's like it's an interesting thing because it really almonds and cherries very well blend together because it's part of the same even ancestry. Like you can smell in both peach as well. We'll talk about in the next video. So there's over 1,200 types of cherries. Rub my ear, a little sticky. um, there's anyway, yes, there's 1,200 types of cherries, and pits of cherries were found in settlements dating back to 2000 BCE. So now, on to my favorite part, the lore, the stories, and the cultural import. And like I always say about these herbs, this is where you get to know who an herb is, what an herb's about, what or a plant or a fruit or whatever, is because you hear all its stories from everywhere. You learn the magic very simply. So let's learn. So in Japan, cherry blossoms are called sakura. Okay, and they represent the impermanent nature of life because, of course, they're only on the tree for such a short amount of time, and it's impermanent. But the cherry has contradictory meanings in Japan. It represents birth and death, and beauty and violence. We're going to see some of those stories, how that works out. So it's very prevalent in nature worship, and it is a symbol of the samurai. So a violence again. So this cherry is a symbol, and we've seen this in some other plants and that we've done. I know we have seen this before. So, but we're going to revisit it. So spirits called kami inhabit trees in Japan called kodama. And many of the kodama are cherry trees. That's like a very popular tree to be a kodama, an inhabited tree. So then more in Japan, there's a story called the milk nurse tree. And I just love these pictures so much. Oh my gosh, I love this. So Uba Zakura, or milk nurse cherry tree, as the story is called. So this cherry tree is supposed to blossom on the anniversary of the death of this wet nurse who loved this child and cared for this child, and she even gave her life for this child. And when she died, she entered this tree, and on her death it blooms. So she lives on in the form of this tree, and we're going to see this a lot. That's like kind of a theme in these stories, but they kind of have different flavor. So one of them is about this milk nurse who gave her life for the child and inhabited the tree, and on the every year on the anniversary of her death, then it blossoms. So also there's a story of the ghost of the lonely samurai. So in the district of Wakagori, there was an old samurai who outlived everybody. Like that's what happens in your old age. I'm getting there too. We outlive everybody. And all your relatives and friends, and the only thing that he had left that he really loved was this big huge cherry tree in front of his house that he played with when he was a child and he loved, and it been in the family for generations. And one summer this tree died, and the samurai just he grew so sad and despondent and was a wreck. It was like his last thing. And so on the 16th day of the next January, he committed suicide, or harakiri beneath the tree. And when he did this, his spirit entered the tree and made it bloom. And every year since, on January 16th, the tree is said to blossom. So we have another story, Ishiwari Sakura. And Ishiwari Sakura is a specific tree. It's called the stone splitting cherry tree. And it's a 400-year-old tree, and you can see it there. That's the actual image of it. And it grew out of a crack in a stone in Morioka, Japan. So the tree measures 4.3 meters around its base, so it's pretty big. And it's approximately 10 meters high. It was proclaimed a national treasure in Japan in 1923. So now we move to China. And it's said that the phoenix slept on a bed of cherry blossoms and to bless it with everlasting life. And it's said to represent fertility and femininity in China. We moved into Buddhism because the mother of the Buddha is said to have given birth to the Buddha propped up against a cherry tree. Then we moved to Ireland. There's a lot here. It's beautiful, the stories. So in Ireland, a cherry burr, which you know what a burr is in a tree, it's one of the woods that Irish people have traditionally used for making, and I can't even say this word, I have no idea. I don't want to. Ugh, I'm so bad at words like this. Anyway, so especially. Okay, anyway, so a two-handled drinking vessel is made from a cherry burr, and it's a special vessel. So it's part of the Celtic tradition of hospitality to share from this two-handled cup that you see. It's used in wedding ceremonies. And then also in a different vein, bagpipes are often made from cherry wood. So that comes from Scotland and Ireland are traditional. But you wouldn't believe how many places use bagpipes. We just associate it with those places, but lots of places use bagpipes traditionally in music making. And they're made all over the place. I was amazed at how many places make bagpipes when I was looking it up. A lot. So wild cherries, so in some places cherries grew like abundantly, right? Like so in Asia, and but then by the time they made their way to Ireland, the Irish cherry trees were kind of few and far between. So there would like be one or two that would be growing in near a stream. And so often there would be prohibitions that would arise upon to not chop down the cherry trees because there weren't very many of them. So in Scotland, and okay, by the way, but those prohibitions were never long lasting. They kind of arose and then kind of fell by the wayside. But that was kind of the flavor, and it was kind of because there wasn't very many of them. So Scotland, so in Scotland, the cherry tree is considered a witch's tree, which is wonderful. Hello. So you're not supposed to use these trees in Scotland. And again, if you would cut down a cherry tree, you would incur a witch's wrath. That's like a big word, a witch's wrath. And so I love this because again, it's part of that prohibition. There's not very many of these trees in Scotland or Ireland. They grow in like onesies or twosies and they produce delicious, we're going to see like fruit, and then you could use the cherry bark, all sorts of stuff. But they don't want everybody, if you cut them all down, then nobody has cherry, right? So there's all these prohibitions that arise, but I love that they've use the witches in their saving of the cherry tree, because I will take it. I will take the cherry as a witch's tree any day. So some say that you shouldn't bring the branches inside your house, but I'm a witch, so if it's a witch's tree, I'm bringing them in. Bring them in, bring them in. So also, and again, sometimes these places have some contradictory messages. This may be contradictory, it may not be contradictory. Take it how you were. Like there's a bird cherry walking stick. If you use a bird cherry walking stick, it will prevent you from getting lost in the mists of Scotland. I love that. So maybe you want that, and perhaps that is witchy. It all works together. It's not contradictory after all. So this is kind of contradictory. So it said to dispel evil. And that's why it was traditionally used as a lunade, which is the pin of a cattle fetter. So I was looking at what a fetter is, and it kind of like, it like holds an animal so they can't move, right? So like, and so there's the pin is made of cherry wood to dispel evil, I suppose, whatever. So then in England, we moved to England, and I use this is like a Christian English story. So I put it here with England, even though it kind of does, it obviously has Christian flair. So Joseph and pregnant Mary were walking through a cherry field. I love this. And Mary said, "Joseph, can you please pick me some cherries?" And he says, okay, dick move, first of all. He says, "You should ask the person that got you pregnant." My gosh. Okay, didn't he? I get it. You're upset. Whatever. But why are you even with her if you're upset? Okay, that's my answer. If you're going to be a dick, like, don't be with that person. That's the answer. Don't like dickishly say that. But luckily, Jesus heard the father's dick move, and he caused the branches to lower down so that Mary could reach them herself and get her own damn cherries, because Joseph wasn't going to give the cherries to her. Dude, what a gnarly story. I hate that story. And whatever. I don't hate that story because I think it's not true, or because it doesn't fit with the patriarchy that's found in this whole milieu. It does. I hate the story because of the patriarchy, because it's just gross. Because why, like, again, if you don't want to be with Mary, then if you're all bitchy that she's like knocked up by somebody else, then by God, then get the fuck out, right? Okay? Don't like start harassing her and like that. I hate that story. Anyway. So the natural cherries in England naturally blossom around Easter. So it's a traditional Easter kind of thing to decorate with Easter blossoms, or cherry blossoms for Easter. And there's this foretelling of the future with cherry stones. So they were counted to foretell future, right? So you would use some of these rhymes, Tinker Tailor or silk satin muslin rags, which they're like these little, like I always did them with the fortune tellers with the paper that you went back and forth to tell. But the cherry stones, apparently you could count them to see, and whichever, like I'm sure you pick some cherry stones, and then you would say the rhyme, and as you move through, whichever you landed on was the one that you got. So it'd foretell like if you were going to marry a rich man or a poor man and all this crap. So also the cherry is tied with the cuckoo bird. And the cuckoo is said to have to eat 3 meals of cherries before it stops singing. Apparently it sings a lot. And there's like this little rhyme, cuckoo cherry tree, good bird tell me, how many years before I die? And then you were supposed to listen to the cuckoo bird and for how many cuckoos you heard. And then that would be how many years that would foretell that you would until you died. That's a little morbid, but okay. Um, okay. I guess the cuckoo coos a lot. So if the cuckoo is cuckooing its cuckoo little heart out, then apparently then you may have a long time, may cuckoo 100 times. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, in Czechoslovakia, there's more stories. Okay, so the cut branches, if you cut the branches on the feast of St. Barbara, which is December 4th, they'll blossom by Christmas. So you cut them and you bring them inside, and then you'll have cherry blossoms on Christmas. In America, there's the famous story, folks, of, you guessed it, George Washington. So the story goes, and the story is even okay, so we don't even know the story right. So we said the story was that he cut down his father's tree, but the original story wasn't that he cut down his father's tree. It's just that he cut into his father's tree with his hatchet. And when he was confronted, he famously said, "I can't tell a lie. I cut your tree with a hatchet." But unfortunately, this whole story about the cherry tree is in itself a lie. And it was made up by George Washington's first biographer. And it was said that it was added to add interest to his, add like interesting aspects to his story. And that it was added like about 70 years after he died. And it was like, who cares? He's dead already. Who cares if we had this great story about his life? He's dead. So nobody's going to, that was what was said. Okay, so then here's the other cherry alcohol. And it's interesting. Once you like even look for cherry anywhere, then suddenly like all the algorithms know that you've been looking up information about cherry, and they will give you the lowdown, right, about cherry. And so I got a thing from this lady on my Instagram telling me about cherry bounce. And I'm like, that's in my thing today. So cherry bounce is homemade cherry liquor, and it's made with cherries and rum and spices. And apparently there's a homemade version. So I would look up cherry bounce. It sounds pretty tasty. When I first heard about it, I kind of almost thought it might be like a oh, what is that wine with you put with the it starts with an S. I forgot it. Anyway, there's like this a wine alcohol drink that's made, and it's a Mexican favorite around here too, and I can't remember the name. It's coming. You'll notice that when a lot of times I can't connect words together with things, and it's part of autism I have, and so I can't connect those things together, and I lose words all the time. So I can't remember that name. If you'll excuse me, it'll come to me. I do it an awful lot. So that's also why I make these videos with slides, is so that I could have the words, and if I don't include the words, then I'm screwed. I won't know the words. I'll never find them again. Until I run across it somewhere, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's the word. Okay, so in America, again, we have more Americas, because this is so amazing. Have you guys ever seen the cherry trees in Washington, D.C.? There's a whole mess of cherry trees in Washington, D.C. And in 1885, Eliza Skidmore, Ruhama Skidmore, she's like this American writer, and she's a photographer, and she was visiting Japan, and she campaigned for a long time to bring Japanese cherry trees to Washington, D.C. It was like a big deal getting them over here, like, and getting them like the whole effort was huge, and she just had it in her heart to do this. And in 1912, her effort succeeded, and Japan donated 3,020 cherry trees to the US. And they're planted all around the tidal basin in DC. And unfortunately, there's not very many that are still alive, but 100 of these original trees still live on, and they still blossom, and you can visit the cherry blossom like festival in Washington, D.C. in America. And it's a symbol of friendship between Japan and America. So now we move on to the correspondences. And the deities that are associated with it are Oya and Venus and Pomona. Konohana Sakuya Hime, who is considered a divine foremother of the human race. The Morrigan, Artemis, and Persephone. So all of these goddesses, and I just do the goddesses. I'm not looking at the gods. I don't, you know what? I feel like there was a time in Western and hominid times when what happened is that God, El, and everybody in this world decided to kick Asherah out of the Godhead, and it became this huge, like, thing. And here we are with this Judeo-Christian tradition with El at its head all the way down, and the whole bent of it is that we kick the goddess out, and we've kicked women out over and over again. It's like a theme. We just kick women out over and over again. So I don't feel one bit sad or upset that I'm excluding the gods from this, because I think that that's the time. It's time. Now we're taking back what's real, and that's that people come from a womb, not a rib. That's the real thing. Go to a hospital, folks. The element that it's associated with is water. The planet is Venus. The astrological sign, I saw it going two places. It could either go with Pisces or Aquarius and Aries. So I don't know where you like this for, but if we're going to go all the way down the water sign, water, Venus, Pisces, that's pretty rad. But water, Venus, and then Aquarius, Aries adds like this whole like bent of like air and fire into it. Maybe the fire is with the Chinese tradition of the phoenix, getting the immortality from the cherry blossoms. So perhaps that's where some of the fire comes from, and the impermanence and the kind of like air, definitely I could see a little bit better. Although it's not very smelly. It's not like cherry blossoms are like, I mean, you can smell cherry, but it's not like an aromatic is what I'm trying to say necessarily. So, and a lot of the air signs, or like the air signs herbs and things are aromatics, where the water signs are fruits. A lot of them are fruits because they're very watery and fruity. So take it however you will. That's something that I want to do next, and I don't know if Raven and Roz are going to want to join in, but I'm desperately wanting to do the herbs through the signs, because I want to know pretty good I know, but I want to know. So the chakra it's associated with is the root chakra. It's the only one I saw. I don't know if I like it for root chakra though, but whatever. The Sabbat, and I didn't really have a Sabbat, but there's a festival, right? So Sabbat is Western, and it's celebrating the turning of the seasons and the turning of the year. So when we have Sabbats, we're celebrating the equinoxes and the solstices and the midpoints of those. And so, but this is another kind of turning of the year moment as well. This is when the blossoms come on the cherry tree, and everybody reckons change in time differently through nature. And so I'm honoring the way that we reckon time through this beautiful fruit and tree. And the Blossom Festival is approximately around March 7th. So now into the magical property. And I so love this. So there you go. There you go. So first of all, happiness and cheer. How can you not? It's so beautiful. And I feel like sometimes there's flowers that just bring this. And creativity, if it's really to be thought of that it brings creativity magically, then maybe we should go back and change that and add, in fact, I'm going to do that right now because I feel it. I feel it. I feel it way more. So let's see, where are we? Not Scotland, not England, not the cuckoo or Czechoslovakia. We're going to go back here, and I want to add, I don't even like the root. Somebody said the root. I like sacral. So let's just add that. And then let's go back and slideshow it up. Because if we're at creativity here, then we are at the sacral chakra. Okay, that's not only is it the characteristic of the highest self associated with that chakra, but it's anyway, yeah. Divination, we saw it used for divination in England, right? With the stones being used like Tinker Tailor, like in divinatory ways. Um, almost like the onions were used, right? And to see which sprouted first. Like nature can be used to divine. We're into the flow of the universe here, folks. Women's magic, of course. Already, like that whole like witches tree, like I knew women's magic and Venus and everything. The cherry is supposed to connect you with the goddess. It's a powerhouse of divine feminine energy. Okay, so before I even go on from there, it's no joke that like cherry. So the vajay, let's just speak that. That's like, let's speak it out loud, modern times. Like that's part of women's magic and of its connection with women, right? It's part of it. So there you go. Healing, cherry is connected with healing. Humor, and I'm not exactly sure how, but funny. So if you're doing humorous magic, I've never done humor. I mean, I've had magic in my spells, right? So, but I've never like done like a ritual or something with like pure humor in mind. It would be great. Wouldn't it be fun to do like a something like a whole ceremony or sabbat or something like that was totally like humorous as can be. That would be really fun to like have that be like the bent of it. Anyway. Magical properties. So love, especially the bark. So you're supposed to wrap your lover's picture in a red cloth with cherry bark to make them passionate. And if they turn away from you, then you burn that. You light that up. Get rid of them. And it will make them less passionate for other people if you do that, by the way. So here's another one. To draw love to you, you can carry bark in a red bag with other love herbs. And there's so many. I feel like so many herbs are tied to love. So, and you can dress that with love drawing oil. Okay. So here's another one. So if your lover leaves you and you want to ruin it for the next person, so you take their picture and you wrap it in a black cloth with the bark. Okay, and you can burn that in a very hot fire. So interesting. So maybe this is what I would do. If you're okay, so go back to number one. Wrap your lover's picture in a red cloth, cherry bark to make them passionate. If they turn away from you, remove the red, change it to black, and burn it in a hot fire. So here's another one that I found in a lot of different places. To find love, tie your hair to a cherry tree. Got a lot of it, so go around the whole thing. Seeds, the cherry seeds are supposed to be talismans for love. It's supposed to attract beauty. With all that Venus, you knew it had to attract beauty, right? So you're supposed to use cherry trees magically on Friday because of its connection with Venus. So Venus is for Fridays. And you can also use the pits if you want to just to repel unwanted attention as well. So now, medical disclaimer, and I always put this because we are not doctors and I don't want to have to always belabor the point, but you know, I'm reading the stories about herbs and I look actually most of this information. I do try to get up-to-date information, but a lot of it is old-timey sources and you'll see it at the end. It's grieve, it's cloth. Okay, these culpepper. Okay, these are like are herbal predecessors, as well as, I mean, there's modern ones that I use often if I can find them, like Hoffman. I'll always refer to Hoffman. There's a bunch of modern that I do as well, but I try to find, but I just want to always tell you that I'm not a medical doctor. But the medical properties is that it's an antitussive, an astringent, a digestive bitter, an expectorant, a tonic, a pectoral, and a sedative. So it has sedative, it's a sedative to coughs. So you'll often see wild cherry bark stuff for bronchitis consumption. Consumption is tuberculosis. If you have tuberculosis, you need to go see a doctor. Maybe add cherry to add as well, but you need to be taking antibiotics because consumption is for rich people. When they found out that tuberculosis was caused by a bacteria and wasn't from your genetics, then it became a thing of poor people. Like, so tuberculosis, but consumption is, anyway. So, nervous cough, though. Some people just have allergies and nervous cough. Whooping cough. Again, whooping cough. If you have whooping cough, please see a doctor. And mostly not, if you're an adult with whooping cough, the cough isn't going to hurt you. But you're going to give it to somebody who is not vaccinated or yet, and especially a baby, and they could die from it. So if you have got whooping cough, you better not be around children. Asthma, if you have asthma. So, and then another thing it's good for is anemia. And this is where it's good, it's a bitter. So what a digestive bitter does is that it's going to speed up your digestion because it stimulates your liver. And so it stimulates juices to get flowing. So it's like when you stretch and when you start moving things, you get the juices flowing in your joints. A digestive bitter is going to get your digestive juices kind of flowing and pumping. Also, it's said to be good. It's an eye wash for inflammation. So, but you're supposed to use it cold, a cold infusion of the bark for this. So some things do different things when they're infused hot or cold, and this is one. So these are the sources that I used, and like I said, look, I've used Grieve and some of these people. That's who I made. Grieve and Hoffman clearly were the people that I used for the medicinal. But you can see I generally look up everything I can find. So with that said, let me stop my sharing. And I will see you on the next Ditch Witch Diary.